And Gigi, just confirming you can see the share screen.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
It's not quite 6 o'clock yet, so we'll wait a couple more minutes and then we'll get started. All right. Aloha, everyone. This is Gigi with the Department of Hawaiian Homelands Grant Specialist. Thank you, everyone, for attending our grants orientation session. Hopefully, everyone can see the PowerPoint slides. We'll go ahead and get started. So, mahalo for attending this evening's session and for your time away from your family. We hope everyone is healthy and in a safe place. I'll, I'll be conducting this presentation. With me this evening is Cedric Dwart. He is our Administrator for Information and Community Relations, and he's assisting with the technology. First of all, I want to thank you, our beneficiaries, and others for helping us at the legislature this year and to voice your support for the department's budget. Many of you are organized as all volunteer associations, so even more so, mahalo for your time and efforts to support the trust. This was an historic moment for the department at the legislature. The legislature gave us an infusion of $10 million for existing homestead services. This is separate and apart from the $600 million that many of you have heard about. The Hawaiian Homes Commission approved a portion of this $10 million to be administered through the department's community grants program. The commission also approved $1 million from the Native Hawaiian Rehabilitation Fund, so we have a total of $8.5 million available in grants statewide. I want to thank our chairman, William Ayla, and the Hawaiian Homes Commission for approving and allocating these new funds to the department's community grants program. This is one-time funding only for the current fiscal year, which started July 1, 2022, and goes through June 30, 2023. We are under a timeline to get these funds out the door and into our homestead communities. We often talk about needing funds for community projects. Well, now we've been blessed. And it is up to all of us, you, the community, and your partners, and the department, to show we can pull down these funds and use them quickly and responsibly to assist and support our homesteads and our beneficiaries. As you can imagine, there's a lot of eyes on these funds and a time pressure to show progress. We are hitting the ground running to get these funds out to the community as quickly as possible. Let's all do our part and show that we can do this together. Okay, let's get started. Next slide, please. Here's the agenda for this evening. We'll go over the purpose for tonight's meeting, then do a summary overview of the 4 different grant opportunities. Then we will go over the highlights of the request for proposal. And this will be highlights only. It is not intended to be a line-by-line review of every page. We will take questions at the end of the presentation. Chat box first, then raise hand, then we'll call on people on the phone. And please note that general responses will be provided throughout the meeting to clarify the RFP requirements. We prefer that you send the questions to the dhhl.grants email address. Also, you may put them in the chat box at any time. Next slide. Tonight's orientation is to provide an overview of the department's grant opportunities so you become familiar with them. There are 4 requests for proposals, or what we call RFPs. We'll briefly cover each one tonight. Secondly, tonight's session is simply to clarify RFP requirements. Lastly, the orientation is only intended to highlight and clarify the information that's in the RFPs. Everyone is advised to read the RFPs carefully. They have the information that's needed to prepare and submit a proposal. Next slide. Many of you who have attended DHHL meetings are familiar with this, our meeting kuleana. We basically have we're all responsible to make this a productive meeting. Please be respectful, give chance for others to speak before speaking again. And again, we ask that you hold questions until the presentation is finished. Please use the chat box throughout the presentation, and then we'll go to the chat box first. If we do not get to your question, please email them to the dhhl.grants email address. Next slide. The RFPs are available on the State Procurement Office website. As you can see, there's the website address. That is the required legal posting, so that website will have the most up-to-date information. Our posting on the DHHL website is a courtesy posting. We will try to make sure to put all information on both websites, but please remember the HANS website is the official posting. Next slide. This is just a snapshot of what the HANS website looks like. I know it's a little clunky to use. Essentially, the easiest way is to enter the keywords, which is the RFP identification numbers. So once you enter that in, you will immediately be taken to that RFP page. That's about the simplest way I can explain how to use the HANDS website. Okay, next slide. Okay, here is the summary. We just made a simple table to quickly show all 4 requests for proposals. Our grants program uses the state procurement method called request for proposal. It's also known as competitive sealed proposals. Our grants program has always been an open and transparent process. We've always used this RFP process. Recommendations are done by a grants review committee, and they are forwarded on to the Hawaiian Homes Commission for approval. Applicants, your partners, any beneficiary, the general public, may provide public testimony before the Hawaiian Homes Commission during that time. This year, we are planning to bring the committee's recommendations to the November 21-22 commission meeting. If you're interested in submitting testimony, verbal or written, please go to the department's website on how to submit testimony. Okay, so just starting from the top on this slide, just very briefly, the first RFP is RFP-23-HHL-001. That is what we call the ID number. This RFP, the purpose is for grants for improvements to existing facilities on Hawaiian homelands. This RFP has a maximum per application of $1 million. In total available statewide, it has $3 million. This is partly where the state general funds is supporting. Please note for this RFP, new facility projects, planning, design, construction, are not eligible. This is only for existing facilities on Hawaiian homelands. The second RFP, 002, is for existing programs and services to existing homesteads. The maximum per application is $500,000. 4.5 million is available total statewide. This also is funded by the state general funds. Same thing on this one. Any new facility projects, planning, design, construction are not eligible. The next 2 grant opportunities are funded by trust funds. So we have a little more flexibility. So the next one is 003. It is what we call project implementation. The maximum per application is 100,000 and total available statewide is 700,000. Any project assisting and benefiting beneficiaries, including new facilities, regional plan projects, basically any projects, serving beneficiaries, lessees, and applicants. And then lastly, 004 is the Community Capacity Building Grant. We have increased this grant. It used to be 5,000. For this RFP, the maximum per application is 15,000. That's 15,000. There's 300,000 total available statewide. Capacity building types of projects are things like board training, strategic planning, The RFP does contain a partial list of projects that we have funded in the past. Next slide. So as we all know, you need to read the fine print. So I'm always going to refer people, please read the RFP very carefully. Tonight is a very simple overview. So read the fine print and the devil is in the details, yeah? Okay, so we're going to go through each one with a little more detail here. So going back to 001, existing facilities. Existing facility means a physical asset that you are currently managing and or operating. So it could be things like a building, a farmer's market. Those are kind of the two that we have that are most common. Secondly, you must have site control. So whoever the applicant is for this RFP, the name of the applicant should be the same as the name on the department land disposition. So you should already have site control. That means you should already have either a right of entry, a license, or a general lease. Okay, and again, these are existing facilities. Means it should be there already on the property that your organization is currently managing and or operating. So again, $3 million total statewide. Maximum per application is $1 million. The grant period is 6 years with no option to time extend. And again, the reason we are doing that is these are state funds, state general funds, and we are trying to expedite encumbering the funds and spend out. And also, there's a lot of other community projects that are in need of funds. So we need to be able to see that you can spend the funds within that time frame. There is a limit of 1 application per organization. Next slide. RFP 002 is a grant for existing programs and services for existing homesteads. Existing program means any program and or service that you are currently operating where the clients or participants are primarily lessees. Ineligible projects are housing counseling, homeownership assistance, emergency assistance. Please refer to page 13 in the RFP for a little more detail. The reason these are not part of the RFP is that the department currently has service providers that provide this assistance. So, so we do not want to duplicate funding the same things we already funded. The total funds available, 4.5 million. The maximum per application, 500,000. This has the same grant period, 6 years, with no option to time extend. And same limit, 1 application per organization. Next slide. Okay, let me just take a little pause here. So as you can see, the first 2 RFPs, 001 and 002, use the same language, existing homestead services. That is the one restriction that the state legislature put on these funds. So we can only use it for existing services, including existing facilities. And these funds are to be used to benefit lessees primarily. Again, this is a condition that came with the state when the state provided us with these funds. So we have to be very careful in how we use these particular funds. We are also required to encumber the funds by June 30, 2023. So that's the other reason we're hitting the ground running and starting the RFP process in August. Usually we don't start until October or so. So we're pushing hard to start the process and to get things finished up and awarded before that deadline. And again, it's just to encumber the funds in a contract, not to, it's not a deadline to spend the funds. Okay, we are allowing for up to 6 years to spend the funds. Okay. Next slide. Next slide. Sorry. Okay. 003. Grant for project implementation. So this is the one that includes new facilities, due diligence, planning, design, construction, any of those types of activities. It also includes any other programs or services, new or currently operating for Hawaiian Homes Commission Act beneficiaries. So this one is not restricted to just lessees. And again, same thing, ineligible projects are housing counseling, homeownership assistance, emergency assistance. Funds available is 700,000 total statewide. The maximum per application is 100,000. The grant period is a maximum of 6 years with no option to time extend, and limit one application per organization. Please note that there's similarity between 002 and 003. There is similarity. The difference is 002 is funded by the state general funds, so it has the restriction of servicing existing homesteads, lessees primarily. 003 is funded by trust funds, so projects can serve all beneficiaries, lessees, and applicants, and new facility projects can also be funded under 003. The dollar amounts are significantly different between the two. So if you need $100,000 or less, go to door number 3 with less restrictions. So think very carefully and read the RFPs of what best fits your project. For these first 3 RFPs, there is a limit of 1 application per organization. This is to give chance to all homesteads. We have 50 homesteads across the state. If all the funds are not allocated in a given RFP, DHHL can shift the funds from one RFP to another. And reminder, these are competitive funds. Proposals must meet the criteria. Next slide. The last RFP we are offering is 004, Community Capacity Building. So this RFP seeks proposals to build, strengthen, and enhance community capacity within the beneficiary community, lessees, and applicants. Funds available total statewide is 300,000. Maximum per application is 15,000. This grant period, because of the smaller dollar amount, it has a grant period of 4 years with no option to time extend. There is no limit on this particular RFP. A single organization can apply for multiple proposals as long as the projects are different. And the reason being, we have many homesteads that are not nonprofits or what they call unincorporated associations, and they need to partner with a nonprofit to apply. So that's why we are allowing for this particular capacity building grant that a single organization can apply on behalf of um, other organizations. So there's a partial list of the types of projects that this capacity building grant would fund. That is on page 60 of the RFP. Ideally, it should be a peer-to-peer or train-the-trainer type of project where beneficiaries are mentoring another beneficiary. That would be the ideal. It's not required, but would be ideal. Strategic planning, board governance, leadership succession, project management, financial management, community outreach, so things like websites, newsletters, we've seen that type of project before. Human resource development, so board member orientation, volunteer orientation, and of course, administrative systems, nonprofit compliance, record keeping, grants management. Those are all the types of capacity building we could fund under this grant. And I do encourage all associations, young, older ones, new ones, mature ones, no matter what life cycle stage your nonprofit is in, whether you're an emerging nonprofit, you're in a growth spurt, you're a mature nonprofit, or you're going through some kind of renewal, you're most welcome to apply. This RFP is not only for new associations. As you all know, boards come and go, needs in your community change over time. In order for your organization to stay current and responsive to community needs, organizational capacity building is always needed. Strong organizations generally are self-aware of their capacity needs and what they need to strengthen or improve. Okay, so that's about kind of the overview of the 4 different RFPs. So now let's break down the different RFPs, and I'll only go over the highlights. Next slide. Okay, so I'm just going to do a brief overview section by section. And again, just highlights. I am not going to touch on every single page. That's going to make this meeting way longer. So I'm going to just talk about what is common to all of the RFPs. As a suggestion, you may want to have one of the RFPs in front of you. They basically have all the same information, same page numbers. So it might be helpful to have the RFP in front of you if you wish to follow along. So the first pages, number 1 and 2 in all the RFPs, this talks about how to submit the complete proposal. So the complete proposal is due by 2 o'clock on October 6th. And what we mean by complete proposal, it means no piecemeal. You are responsible for assembling your proposal and for making a one-time electronic submittal. If the file sizes are too large, you may break them down and send in consecutive emails. Please label it, as the instructions provide examples of how to label your application. And again, no piecemeal. Send your proposal to the dhhl.grantsrfp@hawaii.gov. That's the only email address for all proposals for any of the RFPs. Please submit in PDF form and/or JPEG files only. Do not provide, well, you can, links to websites or cloud storage. Keep in mind that grant committee review committee members can only review what's in the electronic files. They cannot click on links or any cloud storage. So applicants are encouraged to submit proposals in advance of the October 6th deadline. This helps you assure the proposal was received by DHHL in a timely manner. It assures DHHL can open and read the proposal. And if needed, by submitting in advance, it allows time for you to resubmit the proposal if is needed before the due date of October 6th. Next slide. This is pages 5 and 6. The timetable is super, super important. As many of you who are professional grant writers know, if you're not the person that likes paperwork, deadlines, please make sure you have someone to help you because it's very important. Next slide. Here are the dates and overall process. The timetable is subject to change. If there is a change, an addendum will be posted on the State Procurement Office HANS website. Here are some highlights. We are providing the standard 60 days. Actually, you get a little extra, total of 70 days to prepare the proposals for the October 6th deadline. We're conducting the orientations this week. Tonight's meeting is being recorded, so you can view it later at any time. August 12th is the due date to submit written questions. Please submit written questions to the dhhl.grants email address. Please try to limit your phone calls. There isn't a whole lot I can say verbally. I will tend to refer you back to the RFPs. We are in a formal state procurement process, so I really do not, cannot provide a lot of comment or advice to an individual applicant about their project or organization. The department will respond to questions by September 9. If for some reason you need to modify your proposal, you need to make a request to withdraw and to modify your proposal. Requests need to be received by September 30. And again, the proposal due date is October 6. Even if you modified your proposal must still be received by the October 6 deadline. So again, applicants are encouraged to submit in advance. Next slide. Next slide. Okay, section 1, solicitation description. Just wanted to point out on page 7, it is your responsibility as a potential applicant to check the State Procurement Office HANS website for any addendum or amendment to the RFPs. The department will notify applicants, but if you have not yet submitted your proposal, we would not know to notify you. On page 9, availability of funds. What does this mean? This means that the state funds are subject to governor budget execution policies. We will not know until the commission, Hawaiian Homes Commission, approves grant awards, we're targeting November, on the actual availability of funds. This is why we say in the timetable, estimated start date of grant is to be determined. If the timing of this DHHL grant will affect something else in your project plan, please state that in your application so that we are aware of any restrictions or conditions you may have. Next slide. Section 2, Department Award Information. This is page 11 in the RFP. This is where it talks about the award period and award renewal. So again, there is no time extensions, for these funds. We want the funds to be totally spent. Any unspent funds will be returned to the department. There are many other projects in need of funding. So that's why, we want to make sure folks, you have the ability to deploy these resources in your community and get them totally spent. Next slide. Eligibility. So we are allowing any nonprofit to be eligible. So this means you can be an IRS 501c3, or you can be a nonprofit registered with the state DCCA, or you can be a planned community association under HRS 421J. Those are the ones we call the DCCR homesteads. So if you are at least registered as a nonprofit with the state of Hawaii, you are eligible. It is not required to have the IRS 501c3. So we're opening these RFPs up to everyone. Let's see. So on page 12, applicants shall demonstrate that the majority of their clients and or participants are beneficiaries. What does this mean? So say, for example, you're a health program. You'll need to state in your application that a majority of your clients or participants in your program are beneficiaries, and include the data, such as in the last 5 years, our health program served 1,000 clients, more than half were beneficiaries. You can attach reports, client evaluations or surveys, something to substantiate that your program serves beneficiaries. Also on page 12, sections 3 and 4, these sections basically say an organization can only submit one application for the RFP, except for 004, as I mentioned earlier. Moving down the page of page 12, there is a section called Connection to the Hawaiian Homes Commission Act. This is very key. Again, we are the Department of Hawaiian Homelands, and we serve the beneficiaries under the Act. Applicants must show a connection to the homestead or the program that it serves. Examples are a board resolution from the homestead you're planning to serve, support letters, beneficiary testimonials from Hawaiian Homes Commission Act beneficiaries. And then, just as for your reference, attachment A to the RFPs is a list of existing homesteads and the number of leases. It is a monthly report that we provide to the commission. So you can use that as a reference. So for example, if you plan to serve Molokai island-wide, there's 800 plus lessees on that island, and that's referenced in attachment A. Next slide. Okay, next slide is page 14. of the RFP, again, I just want to highlight and bring attention to a few things. So under number 1, licenses, permits. Again, if you are planning a project on Hawaiian homelands, a facility, a farmer's market, a health clinic, you need to show site control. And again, that means that the applicant for the grant must be the same name on the department's land disposition. So that would be a right of entry, a license, a general lease. Number 2 is the partner certification form. It is Form M, like Mary. It's located on page 79. Every key partner or project team member must sign the partner certification. 2 signatures are required. Electronic signature is okay. Needs to be the board president and or the chief of staff or the key volunteer. You must also include a brief description of the partner's role. And this is for you to demonstrate how ready your project is, how ready your team is in place, and that you have a team. Oh, I already said that you already have a team in place and ready to go. We understand that after the grant is awarded, anything can happen in the implementation that may cause a partner to fall out. That's okay, it happens. We will deal with that at the time it happens. The grant proposal is just that, a proposal. It's a plan based on the best available information you have at the time. Number 3, nonprofit status. So this is where you need to submit your state certificate of good standing, which shows that you are a nonprofit. If you are also a 501c3, please attach your IRS determination letter. Number 4 is the Hawaii Compliance Express certificate. This is a state requirement. There's no way we can waive this one. As a suggestion, if you don't know your compliance status, please, first thing you do after tonight's meeting is check your Compliance Express. If there's a problem with it, fixing it may take several weeks. So I always tell people that's one of the first things you want to check on. And it cannot be more than 3 months old. Number 5, the board's governance certification form. That's Form F, like Frank, on page 72. This is for the applicant only. Here you're certifying that you, the applicant, have a board that is not compensated and serves on a volunteer basis. It also certifies that you either have bylaws or policies that govern how business is conducted, including policies on procurement. So for example, for proposed projects involving construction, those will involve construction contracts and big dollar amounts. You should have a procurement policy in place for transparency. Nonprofits also have a policy on conflict of interest and nepotism. We would also like to see that you have a policy on conflict resolution and dispute resolution. Lastly, matching funds is optional. If you do have matching funds, which can also be cash or in-kind donations, extra points are given. Please note that the match must be within the same time period or longer as the department's grant period. Next slide. Section 4, application, page 16, on page 16. The checklist is on page 5-6. We have a convenient checklist for you on page 56. Basically, a complete proposal has 4 parts. The application cover sheet, which is only, I think, just 1 page. Part 2 is the proposal request itself. So that's your scope, your budget, your timeline. Part 3 are the required forms and attachments. And part 4 is other materials. This is optional. Basically, anything else you want to add to support your proposal. Photos, maps, those are worth 1,000 words. Prior grant reports, those are just examples of what to include in part 4 if you so choose. Next slide. Section 6, the application evaluation, page 21. So there are 2 parts. The first part, phase 1, the department checks the proposal for completeness. Any missing items, the proposal will be automatically disqualified. Phase 2 is where the grant committee does their evaluation. Take a look at the criteria 1 through 7. This is also where the committee does the proposal scoring. There are 4 categories: organizational capacity, project readiness, beneficiary involvement, and sustainability. And remember, this is one-time only funding. So sustainability is going to be important to address. You may consider setting aside part of your budget for grant writing or to prepare a fund development plan or to update your business plan or strategic plan. Bonus points, as mentioned, matching funds or donations, in-kind donations, that'll earn up to 5 points. And then for RFP 002 and 003 only, additional points for regional plan priority projects. You'll need to identify the page number in the regional plan of the priority project in order to receive the extra points. Next slide. Section 8 of the RFP are the attachments. These are for reference purposes only. As I mentioned earlier, attachment A is the monthly lease report for every homestead statewide. So just to give you an idea of how many leases are in each homestead, if you need to use that as a reference for your proposal. Attachment B is a copy of the state general conditions. If you are awarded a grant, this general conditions document is automatically attached as part of the contract. And then number C are the state contract forms to give you an idea if you are awarded for a department grant. These are the forms that the department will complete based on your proposal that was awarded. And typically, your grant application is also attached to the contract and becomes part of the contract. Next slide. Grant application forms. This starts on page 59. So this is where the questions, and you prepare your narrative. Please answer the questions completely and fill out the forms best you can. Some forms are really not forms, they are cover sheets. So all we ask is that you simply place those cover sheets on top of the document that's being asked for. Other forms say sample. Here, the applicant has the discretion to format the sample how you would like, as long as the content doesn't change significantly. And please print on letterhead. Page 60. Please pay particular attention to this. What we're looking for here is active collaboration with homestead associations, other nonprofits, and community resources. We're asking that you provide examples or documentation on how you actively collaborate locally. We're interested in your outreach efforts to other organizations serving the same homestead areas and or providing similar service as you are. Page 61, question number 3. This is all about your organization's track record. We are asking for specific examples of grant-funded projects in the last 5 years, showing your track record of being able to spend down funds and deliver your program. And this can be a DHHL grant, a prior DHHL grant, or any other grant-funded project from any other funder. Next slide. This is just a snapshot of the application checklist found on page 56. Please consider using this as your guide as you are assembling your final proposal. Next slide. So as a reminder, here are the important websites. Again, this is the State Procurement Office, HANS website, and the DHHL website. So make sure you check both. And again, the department's website postings are a courtesy. The most complete information is on the HANS website. Contact information. Where do you submit your proposal? dhhl.grants.rfp@hawaii.gov. That applies to all 4 RFPs. No matter which one you're applying for, it all goes to the same email address. Questions, please submit them to dhhl.grants@hawaii.gov. Written questions will be taken up by August 12th. And again, we encourage you to submit your complete proposal in advance to help you assure that the department, we can read it and open it. And then if it needs to be resubmitted, it allows you time to resubmit your proposal before the October 6th due date. We are not going to check for completeness until after October 6th. So again, we are relying on you to send in a complete, correct proposal. There's also a chance if you need to modify it. But again, the department will check for completeness after the deadline. Next slide. Okay, so I reserved the last couple of slides just for some closing few words here. What's a good proposal? We get asked that a lot. Generally, and again, I'm probably preaching to the choir, a lot of good grant writers on the Zoom meeting tonight. Generally, characteristics of a good proposal The proposal was complete and the instructions were followed. Your proposed scope, budget, timeline are all in alignment. What that means basically is it's all telling the same story, right? So whatever you're saying in the narrative, in the scope, your budget is telling the same story, your timeline is saying the same story. Try to keep your proposal brief and concise, well-written, error-free. Please put enough relevant information and documentation to help evaluators understand your proposal. Oh, and before I forget, grant review committee members may or may not be familiar with your homestead or with your project. So please, again, try to paint your picture best you can. Photos and maps, newsletters, things like that are great ways to express who your organization is, what you do, and the great programs that you are delivering. And then for us, for the department, we need to see in your proposal that you as the applicant and your project have a strong connection to beneficiaries. So examples would be board resolutions, support letters from organizations, as well as individual beneficiaries, but some kind of documentation to show your strong connection to the beneficiaries. Next slide. Okay, few last words. Funder fit. So the department should be only one source of funds. And what we mean by funder fit, it basically means take a hard look at your organization and your proposed project. Then look at the RFPs and see if there's a fit for your project. If there's no fit, that's okay. Again, the department is not the only funding source. Okay. And we also particularly want people to leverage our funds. So we do want to see folks pursuing other funds. If the department can be a part of it, great. If not, it's not required. Let's see. You and your board are really the only ones that can determine which RFP or RFPs to apply for. As the department, we really cannot advise you. You have your own board. You are independent organizations. If you need help or you need advice, I'm sure within your network, you have folks you can contact. There's a lot of professional grant writers, fund developers out there to talk to. Unfortunately, as the department, we really can't advise you because, again, we don't want to have any kind of misunderstanding of acceptance of a proposal or eligibility of a proposal. Don't chase the money. I think I covered that earlier. Apply for what you need. That's most important. If you apply for $1 million, but you've never spent $1 million before, that's going to be kind of tough to compete with other proposals. So apply for what you really need. Make sure you have a project plan, right? And again, it's just a plan. Plans, we do know, change. Proposals should address the criteria. Again, these are competitive funds. Unfortunately, we don't have enough funds to fund everybody. So we do have, that's why we have the point scoring and the criteria of who's going to fit best so that we can make the best recommendations to the commission on what to fund. And money isn't everything, as I'm sure you know. It takes people, talent, skills, good leadership, and communications. You can get all the money in the world, but you know, you need the talent and the skills, the leadership and communication and organization to carry it out. So let's show the demand for these funds, that we can use them in the community and support your programs, help you achieve your community visions, and that we can pull down this $8.5 million. And it's okay if we go over. That shows demand. Then we can try and find ways to try to increase our budget. So I wish everybody luck. And, please do, if you have questions, send them in the email. We'll go over the chat box tonight and take any questions from the floor as well. If we do run out of time this evening, again, please send your questions by email. Type them in the chat box, and we'll try our best to get back to you. If we go over the August 12th deadline, that's okay. You can always email us questions. What happens after August 12th is there may be a delay time in getting back to you, but we will try to answer every question best we can. And especially if the question affects the RFP, we will post an addendum if one is needed. Okay. I think this was one of the longest presentations I've ever done on grants. All right, so chat box. Let me see. Okay.
You want me to read them, Gigi?
Yes, if you could. Thank you.
So question 1, are education programs eligible for funding under RFP 002?
Take a look at the RFP. This is one of those generic answers. Yeah, take a look at the RFP. 002 and 003 are pretty wide open.
Okay. Would the development of an energy microgrid be eligible under one of the RFPs?
That's another one. Take a look at the RFPs. I cannot speak to a specific type of project, but take a look at the RFPs.
Are there page limitations for the proposal narrative?
No.
Would a grant proposal for 3 each 30,000-gallon water tanks with rain catchments for all community use be eligible to apply? Off-grid Kuleana Homestead Kahiki Nui. I think you answered that already.
Yeah. Please read through the RFPs. And if you believe that you can meet the criteria and your board decides to apply, that's up to you. I really cannot speak to any specific types of projects.
Okay.
I don't. Part of it is I don't know enough, of your situation in your project.
Understood. Gigi, are we able to confirm that an organization on DHHL land that has a license agreement is eligible?
I guess I'm not real clear on that question. Your organization, if you're speaking for yourself, you should know if you have a land disposition. If you're asking about a different organization and whether they have a land disposition, I would have to refer you to our land management division and or our annual report, which has a list of every land disposition statewide.
Maybe Gigi, maybe just revisit who is eligible to apply for these grants.
It's pretty wide open. Any nonprofit that's registered with the state. So either you're legally, you're an HRS 414D, which most of you probably are, that's the most common, or you are a DCCR homestead, or you have your IRS 501c3 determination letter. That's pretty much it.
Okay. Gigi, could you please explain Form J, indirect cost agreement, and when it would be applicable?
Oh, okay. Indirect cost agreement. So usually these are very large organizations that have most of their funds are from federal agencies. So their cognizant agency approves an indirect cost rate. And they have a letter from that federal agency that says that. So if you have one, great, attach a copy. If this does not apply to you, then it doesn't apply to you. But I usually see them with very large organizations where a majority of their funds comes from federal agencies.
Okay. And lastly, this is a question related to multiple fund sources. So are organizations able to receive multiple awards for grant funds through multiple funding streams? That is to say, if organization X applies for $100,000 through grants for improvements to existing facilities on Hawaiian homelands and $50,000 through grant for project implementation, could they receive both?
Yes, yes.
Okay. And that concludes the questions that you have in the chat at this time.
Okay, great. Let's see, do we have anyone on the phone?
There is one phone number. Okay. But do you want to make it an option for anyone to unmute and ask a question if they haven't gotten their question answered?
Yes, please.
Okay. So if there's anyone right now who has a question, we'll start by, for those on Zoom, if you could raise your hand, we'll call on you first, and then we'll go to others afterwards. So we'll just pause to see if anyone has any questions by raising their hand. Okay, seeing none. If anyone has a question and would like to just unmute at this time and identify themselves and say their question, we'll go ahead and call on you.
I have a question.
Yes, please go ahead.
My name is Moses Kialamakia. This is new to me. Do I understand it correctly? Only nonprofits apply for the grants? Sorry for this kind of question.
Yes, that's correct. This is a community grants program, and per our rules, the department's rules, nonprofits, we can provide grants to nonprofits.
A single person does not qualify then. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Correct.
Appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you for your question. Well, any other questions at this time from the audience that may want to unmute and state a question? Okay, Gigi, I don't think you have any questions for the balance of this meeting.
Okay. We did advertise this as 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. So there's still a bit time left. I am more than willing to stay up until 8 o'clock in case there's any latecomers, or if anybody wants to hang out and have questions, or you're frantically reading through the RFPs right now. But Cedric, if you do need to go, that's fine. I can hang out and end the meeting at 8. I'm sorry, Cedric, I can't hear you.
I'll stay on and we'll just see if there's any further questions.
Okay. Oh, and we are going to post the recording on the department website. So if you want to listen to it later, or you know somebody who could not attend, please let them know that it will be available.
Gigi,
Yes.
it looks like you do have a question coming in from the chat that's asking if they're a community association, as part of the documentation needed to be handed in, would be in support of the community. I guess would they need support letters from the community as part of their application?
Yes. To document the connection of you as the applicant and your project to the homestead, that would be one of the ways to show your connection to the homestead. So letters, the RFP does kind of give examples. So board resolutions would be ideal from the board. Support letters can be for organizations, stakeholders, project partners, individual beneficiaries. Yeah, those would be the types of things, but you do need to show, in order to address the criteria, connection to Hawaiian Homes Commission Act and beneficiaries. Yep.
Okay. That's a response to a phone number in the chat. I hope that answers your question. If not, feel free to unmute, and if you want more clarification, please feel free to unmute and ask a question.
And I do see someone who joined in late. That's okay. This session is being recorded. So it will be posted on the department's website so you can view it at a later time. We are also repeating the session tomorrow night, 6 p.m., and also on Friday during the day at 10. And if you want, you can join all 3 sessions, which I've had people do before. That's okay too.
Aloha, my kako. My name is Kauai. I just wanted to say thank you. That was my question. I was so
Oh.
embarrassed. I came in very late, but thank you to know that it will be it's recorded. I can jump on and it'll be repeated. So mahalo, mahalo.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Gigi, there is one more question in the chat, and the question is, do you have to turn in estimation? You have to turn in estimated costs for the project.
Yes, that would be part of your project budget. That information helps the reviewers to understand your proposal and your project.
Okay, Gigi, one more question. The question is, can you apply multiple times? Can it be for the same project?
No. Any organization, there is a limit that you can apply for one application per RFP, except for 004. That one you can apply multiple times. But all the other ones, you can only submit one. And then even among the RFPs, it cannot be the same project or related. Hi, I do see another question. Gigi, are you the contact person so we can call for help? Um, I am the staff person for this set of RFPs, and I actually prefer that folks not call me. We are in a formal state procurement process. Questions are being taken uh, uh, in written form. You need to email the dhhl.grants@hawaii.gov. Please email questions there. I really cannot provide comment or advice. Again, we do not want any misunderstandings from the department uh, in approving or giving any kind of indication of approval for a grant. So that's why, it's really, we are asking folks to submit your questions in writing. As far as technical assistance, the department is not providing technical assistance to any organization. If you need help with your proposal, um, there's many resources out there to contact, but that is not a role for the department. We can only clarify what is in the RFP and what the requirements are. Sorry. And just to let folks know, if, as you read through the RFPs, I know they're 80 pages long, each of them. If more questions come to mind, send us your questions. You can come back and attend tomorrow night's session or Friday's session. We just want to make sure folks are familiar enough with the RFPs. And again, try to find the best fit, for your organization. And if it's not a fit, that's okay. The department doesn't always have to be the funder. There's many other resources out there. So don't try to force fit something if it's not a fit. And if we have anyone on the phone, please feel free, jump in, unmute yourself if you have a question.
So Gigi, we just have one caller left.
All right.